Technical Advisory Committee meeting to order. I'll note that Eric Eby is with us on the Zoom call and that we have a quorum. First item of business is the approval of minutes from November 1st. Are there any changes, or can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Although not noted on the agenda, 375 Banfield has requested to postpone. Additionally, 212 Woodbury, they will be postponing as well. We got a late confirmation yesterday so item A, B, and C are all postponing until a future meeting. That brings us to item D. The request of Jonathan Watson Sobel Revocable Trust for property located at 49 Sheaf Street, requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide one lot with an area of 5,402 square feet and 50.55 feet of continuous street frontage on Sheaf Street and 22.93 feet of frontage on Custom House Court into two lots as follows. Proposed Lot 1 with an area of 1,855 square feet and 22.93 feet of continuous street frontage on Custom House Court, and proposed Lot 2 with an area of 3,548 square feet and 50.55 feet of continuous street frontage on Sheaf Street. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 107, Lot 21, and lies within the CD4 and historic districts. Who is here on this matter? Is John coming, or?
Yes, I believe so.
He probably thinks,
He walked in. I think he went out to get someone else.
okay.
Briefcase.
Oh, briefcase.
He just ran back up with the briefcase.
I'll save him a seat.
There you go. Into a nearby phone booth. Same.
Welcome.
Afternoon.
I think the main outstanding item was the addressing, and I think Pat was able to go make a site visit. Are there any other items, John, you want to go over?
No, it's pretty much the same with the confirmation of the address. All the zoning is good. And we included a plan for DPW for the water service. I think that was new from last month, or maybe not. Maybe it was brought to the meeting. So nothing else to add.
Okay. Any follow-up questions from anyone on TAC? Comments?
I'm just confirming you intend to go to the December, or that's your preference, okay.
Yeah, I think the notices have gone out, and so
Yes, we paid all the fees. We're up to date.
hopefully we can be on the December planning board agenda.
All right, I'll just open it up if there are any public comments. Anyone here from the public? Seeing none, we'll close that portion and open it up for TAC for further discussion or motion.
I would move to recommend approval.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second with the additional stipulation that the water line has to be installed and functioning before the subdivision can be approved or recorded.
All right. So we have a motion with that condition. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item E on the agenda is the request of One Market Square LLC owner for property located at 1 Congress Street, requesting site plan review approval for the partial demolition and expansion of the existing structure to construct a 3-story building with 58,780 square feet of gross floor area, 12,080 square foot building footprint, 13 parking spaces, and associated on-site and off-site improvements. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 117, Lot 14, and lies within the Character District 4, Character District 5, Downtown Overlay, and Historic District. This item, we didn't have a new submittal, but the applicant wanted to come and talk about some of the off-site improvements and kind of the process going forward. I know Beverly's been involved and in contact with Mr. Shagnon. So I think that's kind of the discussion for today in advance of another submittal for January. Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct. And, for the benefit of the advisory committee, we have requested, given the scope and magnitude of the public improvements proposed for this project, that they track on a separate track, that we basically bifurcate the site plan for consideration by the planning board, meet all the requirements and stipulations to get that moved forward out of TAC, and that we let that proceed to the planning board, and that we ask that the public improvements, I believe the applicant is in agreement with this strategy, that the public improvements associated with the site and around the site be developed and then reviewed. We like to see you continue some engagement with the abutting property owners, but to fully develop the off-site improvements and improvements to the right-of-way areas and bring those back to TAC for review, and giving us any feedback you had received from the public, and we would work to finalize those and move those to council, as they are the approving authority for the easements and all the street licenses that might be required for that project. It is a very big project. We think that engaging the council earlier in this process, and potentially the community, because it will affect abutting property owners earlier, and having that track simultaneously might be a way to make sure that each portion of this project is fully vetted and receives early approval from the bodies that need to approve those plans. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
We'd like to see some, and that would also be true to move, and we will formalize this in our response, to move I know the proposed removal of parking to the Parking, Traffic, and Safety Committee, and use that recommendation as you take it forward to council with your final public improvement plan for the area surrounding the site.
Yes, thank you. So the applicant is very much in agreement with this way forward, and they will engage stakeholders and whatever other departments need to be engaged to plan for the off-site improvements. We'll come back next month with a site plan that just deals with the site itself. And in regards to High Street, we may come back with the plan that just shows the site connecting to utilities and utility work necessary, but not the street improvements. And the need to go to traffic and safety then would be a part of the process going forward with the stakeholders and the public leading up to the council.
For the street improvements, you mean?
For the horizontal street improvements, we'll
okay.
probably do the infrastructure improvements.
So any improvements that are needed to support the site plan should be provided as part of the site plan.
Yes.
So that we're able to understand that the lot is fully served and it's appropriately served by utilities. And we would likely, recognizing that some of those street the temporary construction licenses and any easements, they would be reflected on the plans and, addressed as stipulations, but obviously are not, as they normally are not, part of the approval of the planning board, but really just a stipulation of approval going forward. So,
We did submit for this meeting a license plan, just to go over that, if you do have that to bring up.
Let's see.
If you don't, it's fine. The identified licenses that would be necessary for the site development are essentially some awnings along High Street. And the applicant would like to propose catenary lighting that would be strung from the proposed building to the building across the street, with the appropriate approvals, of course, of the neighboring property owners.
Would those be licenses or easements to hang those in perpetuity?
Well, we're proposing that they be licenses.
Is it our
Right.
buildings that they're being attached to, John, or are they in private property owners' buildings? I'm just,
So there'd be private property owners on High Street, further down Haven Court, and then the alley that leads to Fleet Street. Those would be between the Newbury's building and the parking garage, and then the Newbury's building and a series of, it's not that plan.
Right, I don't think we have, I don't think it got uploaded to the
It's in,
webpage.
it's in the viewport as an
Um,
attachment, if you can go there.
Okay,
but,
let me see.
we'd probably want to take some time with them anyway, just to make
Yes,
sure.
but
And
those are the only real licenses that we identified, because the rest of it would be sewer and water connections and utility improvements, which are typically
do you mean that are
licensed.
required for the site plan, or, and then the public
Yes.
improvements? Okay, understood. Those would be,
Yeah,
so we
those
just,
would
anything needed to support the development within the boundaries of the site, including utilities or any associated easements or licenses. So, yeah, recognizing that the licenses will track, and I spoke with Peter Rice briefly, and he suggested that certainly if there's work to be done with the TAC, I believe we still are looking for more detail on Ladd Street, but as you start to separate out the projects, certainly recognizing that they are connected, but as you start to separate them out, he thinks it would be most appropriate for the planning board and within the sequence to get that approval before you seek the approval from council, but certainly there's work to be done in the interim so that you can queue that up within a reasonable amount of time after your planning board approval. So I think if you do plan to do outreach to surrounding property owners and to continue to meet with this board to review the public improvements, I recommend we are recommending that you, of course, go to Parking, Traffic, and Safety for any elimination of parking. We'd like to see you go to the newly formed, I think, Arts and Cultural Committee, is that the name of it? Help me. I think that's it. That I think I wrote it down, actually, that you see.
For the street improvement
I think
phase?
for any public art improvements, just receiving some input, I think that would go a long way with the Public Arts, committee, which, and I think we can provide contacts for you. That might be a good contact and good recommending body to vet some of the visual improvements through that you're doing that are more artistic in nature, and I think you had a few things like that. And that I think all of that would certainly, as it relates to the public right-of-way improvements, the council would probably be looking for those recommendations as they approve any licenses that are needed, any easements that are needed, any joint use agreements that are needed.
Understood, yeah, I think it's a private funding of public infrastructure, so that definitely will go to the council.
And I think that the direction I have is that as you work through that separate set of plans, that we would be, this is your working group, and we'll review
okay.
those as you develop those, and certainly would like to be apprised as you do any engagement or outreach with surrounding property owners. I think council, of course, that will be very interested in that as well. We can make sure as we move this forward to the council to get those necessary approvals that we are able to support that in a detailed narrative of what I know will be your due diligence to ensure that you've engaged to whatever degree you can abutting and affected property owners.
So if I understand what you're saying, when we, it's important to outreach to the public for the public improvements in the streets, and if we do any stakeholder meetings, then we would invite this committee to be involved in that, and we'd also
You might just
coming
make-
back here with design plans.
I think that if you made us aware, I think that you could make us aware of that. I don't know if the entire committee would end up attending something like that, but as you get results of who attended, and here's the feedback we've received,
Okay.
and present that as you continue to improve those public improvements, and we can summarize and capture that input. And then I think the role of this board is to review whatever changes are spirited by those conversations, and in that process, we can work together to respond to that in a way that meets our designs and safety standards.
Understand.
Okay.
Yes, so we'll report on those meetings.
I think that's fine, and I think we'd like to be apprised of those meetings. It may be, maybe that one of the planners attends just to kind of get the general tenor of what's occurring, but I think we'd like to, put that in your hands and that outreach for those public improvements.
Okay, understand.
Mhm.
And then procedurally, it's not an application that is a typical technical advisory committee application.
Mhm.
So would we create some sort of portal to put them up? We can work on that, sort of like a.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean a way to post it?
Online.
So recognizing it's not going to be something that moves forward, as, I think that let me check on that, because if we may just move it forward as a, courtesy recommendation to the council, that we've reviewed it for our design standards and traffic and safety and those things, and that part of that report would include that, what the parking, traffic, and safety has recommended, and then hopefully we can understand what the Arts Commission recommends and how you've responded to that, then all of that could go forward to council. Whether we would do a formal recommendation, let me confirm that, but we would definitely like to see that presented in this body, and that way, as the discussion continues, those documents would also be available to the community if they'd like to see those through this forum, which is a public forum.
Sure.
So
yeah.
does that make sense, John?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I was just
Okay.
thinking procedurally if there was.
Site plan will follow the same procedures.
Site
yeah.
plan will be the same.
Uh-huh.
This other process, if there was like, I just need to know when you want information and how you want it, so you can tee it up. I mean, it won't follow the usual deadlines, I would imagine, or procedures, because it's kind of different, so.
I think it probably would, because we were posting it, but we're not, I don't know that we are, I have to check and see. I don't know that we would do the regular notification. I'd have to just see with staff what we would do.
Okay.
But we would definitely like it to, this is really the most comprehensive body of people that will be reviewing it and helping you move it forward to council. I don't know that, I think we're going to be reviewing for the typical things that are primarily in public works. I think wheelhouse, they'd be obviously looking for things that relate to, we're taking maintenance at some point of a lot of these improvements, so they might have input about, how to facilitate that. Questions have been raised about, for example, snow removal from stairs, so we'd want to come to some sort of understanding about how that would be managed. And I think other questions relate to fire and safety and all those things that we consider every time we start to work on a project that is changing where the public enters. So I think this would be the body to do it. I'll follow up with you and about how we can coordinate that, whether it's just through these meetings and submittals. If it's work session, we usually have a little bit more latitude with the submissions on the work session. But I think that it probably would benefit the project to have a formal sort of recommendation as it relates to the things that we review as a staff as it moves forward to council for that final approval. And then the site plan, of course, just follows the regular plan, anything you would normally.
Yeah, and we'll separate that out for the submission for the January TAC meeting.
Okay, and we'll be prepared. And we would expect, as we start to work through our comments, that you're able to bifurcate the ones that apply to each section and then satisfy those in your letter as you submit your revised site plan.
Okay.
I think it would certainly be okay to include a larger concept plan for the planning board. They understand, and we can help with the language in the memo so they can understand the, how and the reasoning for creating this this process that allows a little bit more, I would say, engagement and review earlier in the process rather than at the very end. Okay.
Yep, and the planning board, I think, did get a flavor of the total package when we did the concept design review meeting, so I think we have somewhat of a heads up, which is good.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, does anyone else on TAC have any comments for Mr. Shagnon at this time? Do you have any other questions, or?
No,
Okay.
thank you for your time, and I think this is going to be a good way to go forward. Thank you.
All right, I don't see anyone from the public here, but I'll offer anyone want to make any comments at this time. If not, we'll look for a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, brings us to new business, the request of Brady J. Bird and Brian L. Nesty, I think, owners for property located at 184 Walker Bungalow Road and 27 Shaw Road, requesting lot line relocation to convey 3,834 square feet of area and 26 feet of frontage from lot 22318 to lot 22319. Said property is located on Assessor Map 223, Lot 19, and lies within the Single Residence B District. Who is here to speak to this?
John Shagnon from Ambit Engineering, back again. So the first thing I'm doing is passing out some information that I just became aware of today. The property that is 27 Shaw Road has been sold. There is a new owner, and I have an authorization from that new owner and a copy of the deed. So I'm now representing a new owner, and the plan will be updated to reflect that before, obviously, we go to the planning board. We were here last month, and Trevor McCourt asked us to make some changes to the notes, which we've done. There was a note that was eliminated, and note 8 was added per the memo that Trevor supplied to us. The staff comments, there's only one comment. I'll read it into the record. Provide details on Note 9 regarding maintenance, ownership, easement rights, installation, et cetera. So there's an area of the proposed transfer that the grantor wants to reserve for future drainage improvements that Note 9 says the area to be conveyed is subject to a reservation for use as a drainage pond. Maybe pond isn't the best word, but that is part of the grantor's requirements for the transfer of the property to 184 Walker Bungalow Road. And that particular improvement is not being either designed or constructed by Brian Nesty and/or Brady Bird. So they're not prepared to talk about or burden this with details on the maintenance, ownership, easement rights, and installation. I think the language of that reservation can certainly be reviewed by the city's legal department as a part of the approval of the subdivision, but it's not my client's intent to construct that feature. They're simply looking to acquire the property from the abutter, and hopefully we can work through that today and move on to the planning board.
All right, thank you. Any comments from TAC?
The off-site drainage easement, is that for 22318 or for 22318-1?
I believe that's for 18-1, so there is a drainage facility on the southerly property line of 18-1 that that easement was created to allow that drainage to flow through lot 22318. And I believe that was a part of that subdivision approval for those lots.
So is that is that drainage up in the upper left corner of the lot coming up at 223-18-1? What was intended to go in the drainage easement that's on the lot, subject lot you're talking about?
No, it's entirely to support 18-1.
Okay. So all you're asking for at this point is that lot line to be adjusted?
That's correct.
Any other comments? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this application? Seeing no one, we'll close the public comment portion. Any more comments, or?
I don't have any.
Move to recommend approval.
All right, there's a motion.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you. I'll update the owner info
Okay.
for the planning board submission.
Nice.
Re-up
Awesome. All right.
that. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, item B, under new business, is the request of Torrington Brown LLC and Single Venture LLC owners for property located at 132 and 134 Middle Street, requesting a conditional use permit approval to provide 7 parking spaces where 17 spaces are required as permitted under section 10.1112.62 of the zoning ordinance. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 127, lots 11 and 12, and is located within the Character District 4-L1 and Historic Districts.
Good afternoon, John Shagnon again. And Greg Michaelides, who you're all familiar with, is also assisting on this application. So this application was approved in a slightly different form 2.5 years ago. And there were parts of that that were subsequently extended, the approvals were extended. However, there was an oversight that the conditional use permit did not get extended. So we're here to re-permit this conditional use permit on the property 132 and 134 Middle Street. They are 2 separate lots, but the building is one building that's bifurcated by the property line down the middle. And currently, there was a commercial use in 134. And my understanding is that up until 2017, it was a dental office, and that use ceased. And the proposal is to convert that to a residential unit. So there is a change in the configuration of the interior, in that the commercial unit is now going to be changed to a residential unit. In looking at the parking space calculations in the top left-hand corner of the C2 plan, there was a calculation for the existing space requirements under the Portsmouth ordinance and the, based on the number of units, 17 units being under 500 square feet and 1 unit being, or 3 units being between 500 and 750 square feet. And then based on the current use, not the dental use, which would probably require more parking, but I believe if we look at that space as office, we come up with a required parking, adding visitors to the 20 units of 18 spaces. The proposal is to eliminate the commercial use and have 21 residential units, and the 17 units are still the same size. There's no changes to the sizes of the units. The application before contemplated putting units in the basement and making the sizes of the units change. So it was sort of a different application in that regard, and it required more parking than this application. But the 17 units are going to stay the same, and then the 3 units becomes 4 units, and that unit that's added is in the 500 to 750 range. So it adds 1 parking spot, same number of visitor spaces. So the total parking space requirement is 17, down 1 from the commercial use. The plan has unit areas and bedroom counts, and it shows that on-site there is some parking available. The property has parking on either side of the building. There's space for 2 cars on the right-hand side. As you come off of Middle Street, 2 on the left-hand side, those are stacked. And then the property has an easement out to State Street, and coming in off of State Street in the back, there is space for 3 spots, 2 which are stacked, and for a total of 7 on-site parking spaces. There was another parking space that exists that the previous application, it was noted that it's in the front of the building, so it doesn't meet the ordinance. That space will be eliminated, and it's noted on this plan to be eliminated. Let's see, the comment, staff comments for this. CUP methodology is okay. Just need to be sure that all vehicles can get in and out of parking spaces on site as shown, and we believe they can get in and out on as shown. It is tight, but they are stacked, so there has to be some coordination with other unit owners. And then consider adding more bike racks is the second comment. And prior to, and as a part of the new owners' renovations that they're undertaking as unit owners, leases expire, the new owners are just up renovating units. They did install bike racks on the building, so there's a series of 4. It's 2 installations, but they can each hold 2 bikes. And those are, I don't know if the pointer's available, but I've shown in the picture, one is on the north side of the building and one is on the south. The plan shows some further additional bike racks, and the applicant is willing to also add those. So that should answer the question about adding more bike racks. We look for your recommendation to the planning board, and if you got any questions, we'd be glad to answer them. I don't know if you have anything to add.
All right, thank you. Any questions from TAC? Comments?
So a clarification, we're just looking at parking for this, right?
Right, just, and really, the parking demand analysis is what's supposed to come to tax. Eric, did you have any comments, or you're all set?
No, I'm all set with that. You know, it does look like it's going down, but the demand is going down by 1. So it's better than it is now.
All right, thanks.
Is there any process for reserving spaces, or is it first come, first serve? How do you guys work that? Or how is the owner working that?
I think they're definitely inquiring of the tenants, you know, if they need a space or not, and they're finding that typically they don't. The people that are, there's a well-served group, or a group that is served by this, that don't have vehicles, because it is so close to the downtown and public transportation. So they understand the need to coordinate the stacked parking, and understand if there's, that they have to identify the people that are going to be using those spaces and work with them.
So the new tenants are fully informed of the situation?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So the tenant agreement would basically stipulate whether or not parking is included, so there's not a, you know, some sort of an issue down the road, right?
Yeah, that's definitely agreeable, that it's clear,
sense.
it's clearly going to depict that you don't get a parking spot,
Right.
and you're on your own to find a space in the facilities like the Hanover Garage or the Foundry Garage, or make an agreement with some other
Maybe you don't have a
property
vehicle
owner.
at all. I mean, it's
Yeah.
their choice. If they're buying the
Right.
place without a spot, then,
Right, these are rentals.
yep,
Yeah.
rentals.
These are new owners, and all the old leases are month to month. So as they're renewing the leases, they're bringing it all up to adding language like that, or there's saying that there is no parking. So these guys they've owned it for a year now.
Right.
So they're trying to bring it up to speed. I guess everybody in there is month to month. That's what they told us.
Okay.
And you're probably aware that this is the last step in the full renovation.
Yeah, I don't think I was aware of it, yeah. Didn't think.
No, if it's, is
Is
that
there a building permit yet for the
rentals? or-
change of
I guess
use?
it doesn't matter.
Just curiosity, is that?
Everything but this.
They have the variance, this conditional use ran out. When they bought it, they didn't realize they didn't realize they had a conditional use permit. The seller only gave them the variance. I talked to Peter
Right.
about this. So they knew they had the variance, they didn't know they had a conditional use that expired.
Yeah.
And the variance is for the removal of the office, the dental office?
Yeah.
Right, in conversion to the residential.
Conversion to resident, full
So
resident.
they needed lot area per dwelling unit for the number of units.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a density.
That's why I
issue.
want to make sure
Yeah.
when we talk about parking today. Get it right.
And there was HDC approval, I believe, too, maybe not, I'm not sure.
You said it's
the
the
last
last
I don't think there
No,
was.
okay.
At least they didn't tell us.
Maybe.
Last step before, maybe.
But the new owners are aware that they're going to redo the steps next.
I'm good.
John, what did you mean when you said this is the last step in the renovation?
In the process of getting the permits for the renovations. that they're-
The last step prior to applying for a building permit, is that what?
Yes.
Gotta go to the planning board after this.
Right, understood, thank
Yep.
you. Yep.
All right. Any public comment? Close that portion. And open it up for further discussion, or anyone wants to make a recommendation. We did see this a couple years ago.
Yeah, I support this. I think as long as the tenants are fully aware of what they're getting into, it supports sustainability in the city and less cars and less congestion. So if there's people that can live without a parking space, that's great. So I'm going to vote for it. Unless somebody has anything else, I can make a recommendation to approve.
All right.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this would be planning board engineering, correct?
Right,
So we'll update the plan with the extra bike racks,
okay.
populate the letter. Thank you.
Any other business anyone wants to
Motion
bring
to
at this
adjourn?
moment? All right, I guess not. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Wow. Fast.